meeting to order. This is a public meeting concerning proposed zoning Lindsay, do you want me to allow you to do a roll call to make sure we've got everyone?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Well, we don't need quorum, but I'll just do, so from staff, Clint.
I'm here.
Okay, and Alicia is here. She cannot speak just because the way she's connected. And then I'm here from staff. And so from council, we have Barbara Dobreen.
Yes.
Councillor Shipston.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Milne.
Yes.
Is Councillor Shearson here? Okay, that's a no for Councillor Shearson. Is Councillor Frew here? Okay, no for Councillor Frew. And I know that Councillor Rice already told me he was not attending, and Mayor Woodbury is not on the line. So that's it for staff. And I believe everyone else is just a few applicants and some agents, I believe. So you can go ahead, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
Yep.
So this is a public meeting concerning proposed zoning bylaw amendments pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. Files, and Lindsay, you'll have to read out the file numbers and so on there for me, please.
Yep, so we have file C220, file C320, and file C420, which is also an OPA, and the number is OPA 1-20.
All right, thank you. Any person or public body is entitled to attend the public meeting and make written or oral submissions in support of or in opposition to any of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Written comments should be submitted to the clerk, Lindsay Green. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Southgate before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council, the Township of Southgate, to the local planning appeals tribunal, and in addition, they may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeals tribunal. In the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The first zoning bylaw amendment is file number, did you say C2-20, Lindsay?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So the purpose, Lindsay, you'll have to read that as well.
Yeah, that's
please.
okay. So we have file C2-20, which is Levi, Edna, and Joshua Frey, and the Mount Forest Ag Auction Cooperative, Inc., which is Concession 6, Part Lot 9, and Concession 6, Part Lot 9, Part 1, Geographic Township of Proton. So the background, the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is to implement a proposed lot addition, recognize an existing business, establish a small engine repair workshop, recognize a secondary dwelling, and reduce lot areas and frontages for the proposed lot addition. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to change the zoning symbol on a portion of the properties from agricultural A1-71 to industrial exception M2-63, and from agricultural A1 to agricultural exception A1-71 to facilitate the lot additions and regulate the permitted uses on the property. The environmental protection zone boundary may be adjusted based on Conservation Authority comments.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'll note there, I know this is in the former Township of Egremont, not Proton.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I wondered that. So that was just a typo. So it is Geographic Township of Egremont.
Okay. Very, very good. May I please have confirmation from the clerk that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
So yes, proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice was sent on May 13th, 2020, and the sign was posted on the property on May 15th, 2020.
Thank you. I'll now ask our planner, Clint Stredwick, to review correspondence received from commenting agency. Mr. Stredwick, please.
Thank you, Chair Milne. I'll read out the comments here. I would note that the applicant's agent, Ron Davidson, is here as well if there are questions that arise that he may be able to answer. I'll read through those comments we've received to date. So the first set of comments is from the building department, and the building department indicates that development may require applicable permits before construction, and it may require water supply to meet OBC 3.2.5.7 water requirements for firefighting. Although the auction house has been in operation for 6 years, there has never been a change of use application for the building. A change of use application needs to be completed, approved and required construction, finalizing to bring this property into building code and compliance. The Enbridge Gas does not object to the proposed application. The Historic Saugeen Métis have reviewed the relevant documents and have no objection or opposition to the proposed development. The Ministry of Transportation has reviewed the file and indicate that it falls outside the MTO's permit control area. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority indicate their recommendation is that the application is acceptable to the SVCA staff. They do note the presence of threatened and endangered species on the property, so the applicant should contact the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to address those concerns with respect to that policy. MECP inquiries can be addressed to SAR on Ontario at ontario.ca. The Public Works Department indicates that a safe access can be provided. A road widening is not necessary at this time, and it is a load restricted road. And the Risk Management Office indicates that it's not applicable as it's not in a wellhead protection area. Public Health indicates they've reviewed the application and have no objections. And the County of Grey Planning Department did a detailed review here of the policies. However, in summary, they indicate MDS 1 is not required for agricultural related uses or for severance of existing agricultural related use. And it says, provided positive comments are received from the local conservation authority, county planning staff have no concerns. And they request notice of a decision rendered with respect to the file. And that's all of the comments that I have to date. Just to note, if there's anyone online, that comments can still be received up until a date of the decision for the application. So there will not be any sort of decision made today, so you still have an opportunity to provide comments in writing or contact me at a later date to make submissions. And that's all for that file.
All right, Clint, thank you very much. So we haven't heard from the Ministry of Ridiculous Bureaucracy then. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So you haven't had any written comments to this point either by members of the public?
None received that I have, correct.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or discussion from councillors at this time?
Yeah, Martin here, through the chair. Clinton, I was looking at the granny flat. The 10 years, is that maximum, or is that just what they want? Or can they go longer than that? Because every time they reapply, they have to pay a fee, don't they?
Yes.
So if they could get it
Can go
longer.
longer. They can go up to, the Planning Act actually allows to go up to 20 years for that.
Okay.
that.
And the other question, in the building department section, it said something about fire prevention. Is this going to be one of those items where it's a cistern, or because of a shop, is it just going to be a sprinkler system if they need be?
Well, the reason why they put that in there is when a site plan comes forward for the shop, depending on the size of the shop, it will, and what's involved with the shop, it may require that
Okay.
water reservoir.
Okay, so it depends on the site plan then.
Yeah, and that'll be the call of between the fire department and the chief building official to make
Okay.
sure that that's there.
This is Levi. Am I allowed to comment?
Sure.
There is a pond, an existing pond, 150 feet away from where the building is supposed to go.
Very good. So that would be when they're looking at whether a reservoir, a constructed reservoir would be needed or not. So that would be part of the decision at that time. Thank you,
Yeah.
Levi.
Just as a note to that, ponds and streams can sometimes be considered. There are times when they can't be, particularly during the winter when some of those are frozen over. And it depends on the capacity.
Okay.
Thank you for answering my questions, Clint.
No problem.
Thank you, Martin, for those questions. Any other councillors have any other questions or
Yes,
comments?
please. Barbara here, through the
Go
chair.
ahead, Barb. Go ahead.
Through the chair. Clinton, could you just walk me through the lot addition? I see the diagrams in the application and in your and in the notice. There's the small kind of severed lot to the east, and there's the M2-63 section, which is kind of jogged, and then there's the A171. What part is the lot addition?
Okay, so it's the auction house is a lot, which is the M zone.
Yeah.
It is essentially a big rectangle right now.
Yes.
And it's actually going to be 2 lot additions, if you want to look at it that way, where a section of land on the east side of the auction house is going to be added to the larger farm parcel.
The A171, okay, that's what I wondered.
Okay, and then at the back, the A171 portion at the back of the auction house is going to be added onto the auction house parcel, and those amounts are going to be about approximately the same.
Okay, all right. So, and I wondered, because when I looked at the notice, it showed instead of a jogged rectangle, it now is more of a proper full rectangle, and I wondered if that was coming there, and so thank you very much for explaining that.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Any other councillors? Any other discussion?
I see Mayor Woodbury has joined. Councillor Frew, are you on the line? Okay, Councillor Frew is not on the line, but Mayor Woodbury has joined us, just so people know he's here too.
Okay. So you want me to finish this one and then I'll turn it over to him?
No, you go ahead if you're okay.
All right.
Does
Welcome,
the
Mr.
applicant's agent have anything to add?
Oh, I haven't got there yet, Clint. Be patient. Good
Sorry.
morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. You're doing a great job. I'm just going to watch it.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions or comments from council at this time? Okay, hearing none. I know Levi's on the line, and I presume Mr. Davidson is as well. Is there anything you gentlemen would like to add at this time?
Sure. This is Ron Davidson, and presumably everybody can hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Here you
Okay,
go.
perfect.
Thanks, Ron. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you. Yeah, I have very little to say. It seems like everybody's in support of this. The real reason for the rezoning is simply to allow for Levi's son, Joshua, to start operating on his own property. He is a mechanic. He specializes in repairing tractor engines. He works elsewhere, and what he'd like to do is put up a 60 by 80 building so he can start his own business on the site. When we spoke with Clint to begin with about putting it on the subject property before we got into the lot addition idea, Clint was a little bit apprehensive about putting it on the property where Levi had originally thought, only because of that house or that little lot that one of the councillors mentioned a few minutes ago. Clint thought it was getting a little bit too close to that, so Levi entered into an agreement or a handshake agreement or an arrangement, anyways, with the people to the west, and that's the auction house. And it's a pure land swap, as Clint said. The same amount of land that the same amount of land that Levi is getting, he's giving up. So it's going to be a pure land swap. That's it for my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ron. Anyone have any questions for Ron? Okay. I guess the next step here now is I'll ask anyone present, that includes anyone from the public, whether they'd like to make a submission in support of this application. And if you wish to do so, please state your name and address for the clerk. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application? And if so, please state your name and address for the clerk. Not hearing one. Are there any further questions or discussion from members of the council?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now declare this public meeting portion of the meeting adjourned. Oh, wait.
No.
Yeah, we adjourned this. No, we don't adjourn yet.
No.
No, okay, so we just finished this portion of the public meeting.
Yep.
So we'll go on to the next file. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's correct. I'll read it out.
All right. Just thank Ron and Levi for their time today. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Okay, Lindsay, if you'd be so kind to read the next number and name, please.
Sure. So next file is zoning bylaw amendment C3-20, which is Red Barn Farms, concession 19, lot 20, geographic township of Proton. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is to add an additional permitted use to the list of permitted uses for the A1-237 zone. In addition to the existing on-farm diversified use shop, the owner would like to rent, repair, and store construction and landscaping equipment on the property. No new buildings would be required, and no additional outside storage would be required. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to have the zoning symbol A1-237 remain the same and add the rental, repair, and storage of construction and landscaping equipment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I presume I should read this couple paragraphs in any case. We're a little out of order, but that's okay. Any person or public body is entitled to attend the public meeting and make written or oral submissions in support of or in opposition to any of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Written comments should be submitted to the clerk, Lindsay Green. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions to a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Southgate before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council of the Township of Southgate to the local planning appeals tribunal. And in addition, they may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeals tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So Clerk Green,
Brian, are you there?
Yes. All right. Well, I think we probably should wait for her.
Can you hear me now?
I
Yeah.
can hear you now. Very
Okay.
well. Thank you back. Welcome back.
Sorry,
I
guys.
just asked if I could have confirmation of proper notice.
Yes, so proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice was sent on May 13th, 2020, and the sign was posted on May 15th, 2020.
Most excellent. Thank you, Lindsay. I will now ask our planner, Clint Stredwick, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Mr. Stredwick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mel.
So
First
formal.
comments we have is from the building department indicating applicable permits will be required before construction. And depending on the size and location of rental space, a change of use permit will need to be approved and construction to comply with the Ontario Building Code. Just as a supplementary to that, in further clarification with the CBO, he was unaware that the primary reason was to store, just to store equipment. So it may not require a change of use permit for outside storage. The county planning department, county planning staff recommend receiving comments from the Conservation Authority to ensure the proposed zone change will not have a negative impact to the above noted natural heritage features. Provided the positive comments are received from the Conservation Authority regarding natural heritage and hazard features on the subject property, the county planning staff have no further concerns with the subject application, and the county requests notice of the decision with respect to the application. The Enbridge Gas Inc. Does not object to the application. Historic Soggy Métis have no objection, and the MTO has reviewed the municipal file and have no comments at this time. That's 2 we've gotten from an MTO. That's a lot.
Well, there you go. You're getting better.
Yeah. Your tax dollars at work. The SBCA indicate the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is acceptable to the SBCA staff. In terms of natural heritage, there is a provincially significant wetland on a portion of the property, significant woodlands and fish habitat, and other identified wetlands, and threatened and endangered potential for threatened and endangered species. And the applicant should contact the MECP for any inquiries to address this policy. I would note there's no new construction here. It's simply adding a new use to the existing approved use. They're not changing the location of the outside storage. They're just changing it from, say, metal storage to equipment rental storage. So in conclusion, given the above statements from the SPCA staff, they consider the application to be consistent with Section 3.1 of the PPS and Section 2.1 of the PPS, With the exception of 2.17, which is the habitat for endangered species, which the applicant must address, as I mentioned, and they consider it consistent with the Grey County Official Plan and Township of Southgate policies for natural hazards and heritage features. The Public Works Department indicated safe access can be provided and a road widening is not required, and it is a load restricted road. Public Health have no objections to the application. And there's already a commercial entrance for the property, so it's fine. And that's all the comments I have at this time.
Very good. Thank you, Clint. So there's no written comments from the public?
None received.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions or discussion from councillors at this time?
Yeah, Martin here, through the chair. Clinton? With the fact that there's no new construction, because of what they are storing outside, is there going to be any recommendation for fencing or anything?
Well, all of that is in place with respect to the existing site plan agreement.
Okay.
With either fencing or screening with trees and that sort of thing. So, because it was a metal workshop, that he's expanding his uses to be able to rent out construction equipment like little bobcats or what have you.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Any other questions or discussion from councillors? Okay, now I'll ask if the applicant or his or her agent is present. Please identify yourself by stating your name for the record and if you would like to make any representation on your application. Hearing no one, is there anyone present who would like to make a submission in support of the application? Please note you would please state your name and address for the clerk. Hearing no one, if there was anyone here who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application, please note you would state your name and address for the clerk. Hearing no one, is there any questions or further discussion from members of council?
Yeah, through the chair.
Go ahead, Martin.
This just came to mind, Clinton. You just mentioned that small construction and landscape equipment like skid steers and bobcats. Is that the biggest piece of machinery? They're not going to have float trucks coming in up and down that laneway for bigger equipment? So there's going to be a size limit? Or do you know that?
I don't know that specifically, but I was under the impression that it was for smaller equipment rental. Like that would be one of the larger pieces.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Any other questions or discussion from council?
Through the chair, it's Barbara.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up on member Ship's comment about float vehicles, float equipment. Any kind of construction equipment would require vehicles of trailer type to float them to wherever it's being delivered. Would it be limited based on the half load road, the restriction of the half load restriction on that road, or I'm going to assume that since it was a metal shop, their driveway is a commercial entrance, so that'll all be covered in any site plans and that? Or is the site plan even required, Clinton, because they're not changing the physical landscape of the lot, they're just adding a use?
Okay, there's a couple things there. So the Public Works has already said they already have a commercial entrance for the existing shop. The The road is a load restricted road, so it doesn't matter what you're doing there. You can only travel on it on certain times with half loads, etc. And the third piece there was the site plan, and it does not require a new site plan because they're not changing the areas where they're proposing for storage, outside storage that is, and they're not changing like putting any new buildings or anything. So this is purely a zoning exercise to address the issue of an additional permitted use.
Thank you, Clinton. That's what I understood. Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. Any other questions or discussion from councillors? Hearing none, that's the end of this one, this portion of the public meeting. So we'll move on then to the third one. Lindsay, I apologize. I suppose I don't have to read that preamble again. Do I or not?
No, you're okay. I'll just go ahead and read the titles.
All right. So if you would just read the final file number with the purpose, effect, and location, please.
Yep. So zoning bylaw amendment C4-20. Which is also an official plan amendment, 1/20, Flato Dundalk Meadows Inc., concession 1, southwest of the Toronto Sydenham Road, part lots 233 and 234, geographic township of Proton. Background is the purpose of the proposed official plan amendment is to amend policy 4.1.2.2I to allow the proposed commercial uses to exceed 200 meters squared. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to prescribe commercial uses appropriate to the site and add a definition for a fitness/health club. Adjustments to certain site-specific zone standards are also proposed, such as parking requirements and maximum GFA. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to change the zone symbol on the subject property from R3-379-H to commercial exception C1XXX to provide specific commercial uses and site-specific provisions for certain zone standards such as parking requirements and maximum GFA. The effect of the site-specific official plan amendment is to allow for an increased floor area for local commercial development.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I please have confirmation from the clerk that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice was sent on May 13th, 2020, and the sign was posted on the property on May 15th, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll now ask our planner, Clint Stredwick, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Mr. Stredwick, please.
I wonder if it might be prudent before I do that. I do know the applicant, or rather the agent for the applicant, has submitted a presentation. If it might be appropriate for them to present that now, just to explain it before I go on and read all of the comments about it.
Okay, that seems fair with me. If everyone else is okay with that, Madam Clerk, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Corey, you can go ahead.
All right. I will invite the applicant or their agent to make their presentation to council, please.
Thank you. Good morning, council and members of the public. My name's Corey Chisholm. I'm a registered professional planner with MHBC Planning, and we're acting as the planning consultants and agent on this file. Just through my presentation, I know it's embedded within the agenda package, so just for reference, we're starting on page 108 of the agenda package.
Okay, thank you.
So, as the clerk mentioned, the applications for the public meeting this morning are for an official plan amendment, a zoning bylaw amendment, and there's also an associated red line revision to the currently approved draft plan that is also corresponding to these applications, and I'll take you through some of those details as we go through this material. So moving on to the next page, just quickly to introduce the project team. The owner, as you know, is Flato Developments Inc. Shakir is listening into the call. The civil engineering consultant is Crozier Consulting Engineers, and Brandon Powers, the engineer on the file, is also on the call. So after my presentation, if there's any discussion and there's any questions related to engineering, I'd be happy to answer those. The environmental consultant is SLR. As these applications really don't have So the specific site associated with this official plan amendment and zoning amendment is identified in blue on this image, and it's really in the east corner of the site, adjacent to where the future entrance off of Highway 10 will be. So moving to the next slide, just briefly, the Flato East subdivision received draft plan approval in November 2016. The rezoning associated with that was approved in April of 2017. Since then, and as our clients registered some of the first bases, there was a few minor red line revision applications and associated zoning amendments. Those were approved in 2019 and earlier this year. Those were largely associated with moving some drainage blocks around just to help accommodate stormwater flows. So before you again is application for OPA and ZBA and concurrent red line revision, and the purpose is to permit a local commercial plaza. Those applications were submitted to the township in February of this year. And in addition to the application today, in the future, site plan approval will also be required, where some of the more detailed characteristics of the site would be reviewed. Moving along, so the proposed applications, the official plan amendment, it's a site-specific amendment to permit commercial development that exceeds the allowable GFA. I'll get into that a bit later. The zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the lands which are currently zoned in the R3 exception zone, as currently there's approved townhouse blocks in this location, to the local commercial zone with some site-specific exceptions. And there's also a red line revision, again, to amend the existing approved draft plan, replacing what would be 33 townhouse units with the proposed commercial block. So moving down to the next page, we're on page 113 of the agenda package. Again, the land subject to these applications are identified in blue. And as you can see, the existing approved plan has two streets running parallel to each other that would connect down to the bottom street, which will ultimately be Milliner Avenue. Part of the change proposed is to add a block identified in blue to be a commercial plaza, and that would, as a result of that, it would cause the easternmost street to be slightly realigned to wrap around that commercial block. Moving to the next slide is the concept plan that we submitted with the application, and this is what we've been using to base the requested zoning amendment off. So it was really to lay out approximate size of the future commercial plaza building, lay out parking, ensure we can incorporate details such as a fire route, loading spaces, that type of thing. And I should point out here, as you can see a bit more zoomed in, the realignment of the street. So before, the street would have been running through what is now, or what would now be the commercial block. It'll now wrap around, connect to Street J, and down to Street H. And the entrances proposed to the commercial plaza would be off of Street H, and then there'd be a second access off the top. Moving to the next slide is an arduous rendering of what the eventual commercial plaza may look like. Here the architectural style our client's looking at right now. So again, this is subject to change as we get into the site plan approval process, but I think it's a good representation of the form of development we're looking at. So moving to the next slide, as part of the official plan amendment and zoning amendment applications, we had to review all applicable provincial, county, and local planning policies to ensure they conform. So we did review the Provincial Policy Statement 2020, and it's our opinion the proposed applications conform to that document. Next slide, we reviewed the County of Grey official plan. The site is designated as primary settlement area in the County OP, which considers larger settlements with full municipal servicing, looking at a wide range of uses, services, and amenities. It also promotes a full range and mix of land uses, supports compatible economic development and employment opportunities, and it's our opinion these proposed applications conform with the policies of the County OP. So moving to the next slide is an image showing the site location in regards to the township's official plan. So again, the site's identified in blue, and you can see it's within the neighborhood area designation. Moving to the next slide, the township's neighborhood area designation's a bit unique. It's not purely for residential purposes. It also considers other uses such as some smaller scale commercial uses, institutional uses, and other similar uses. Moving to the next slide. Exceed 200 square meters or 50% of the gross floor area, whichever is less. So as we'll get into the next slide, one of the proposed amendments is to actually remove that restriction to allow for additional floor area. And the township OP policies do include some additional criteria that need to be evaluated when considering developments such as this. So they will be evaluated on site size, access, adequacy of parking, design, location, and proximity to other commercial uses. They're intended to generally be located on corner lots and serve a reasonable area within walking distance and be compatible with surrounding lands. So on the next slide, really the only policy we're proposing to amend here is the one with the floor area restriction. And we're proposing to just remove that restriction specifically to our site, and then identify that size restrictions would be further identified through the zoning bylaw amendment. So moving to the next slide, this is the current approved zoning on the site associated with the Edgewood Green subdivision. Again, you can see the site identified in blue, and you can see portions of that are currently zoned in the R3 zone, which is associated with the townhouses. And part of it would have been municipal right-of-way, which will be is proposed to be realigned. So the next slide is the proposed zoning amendment, and that's just identifying those lands are proposed to be rezoned to a local commercial exception zone. On the next slide, we get into the specific zone provisions that are proposed to be amended. So we're looking to use the township's existing local commercial C1 zone as the base. And then there were a few provisions within there we identified that we'd be looking at amending. And part of that was the floor area. So again, the intent is to keep it that there's a variety of smaller scale local convenience commercial uses. So we're proposing that the maximum gross floor area for any individual commercial unit within the plaza would be no larger than 300 square meters. And we've included a provision that one use may exceed that to a maximum of 600. And the intent of that is oftentimes you see in some of these plazas, there may be one larger unit typically on an end, might be a restaurant or could be another use as well. So we wanted to provide some flexibility that while the vast majority of the units would be restricted to being less than 300, there would be the opportunity to have one larger unit. One of the next provision we're looking at revising is the parking requirement. So the way the township zoning bylaw deals with parking for commercial uses, there's different parking standards for different uses. So through this, Crozier submitted a parking study in support of using one rate that would apply to the entire plaza, and this would make it a lot more straightforward moving forward as opposed to trying to juggle different parking ratios for 6, 7, 8 different uses. So the proposed use is 1 space per 20 square meters of gross floor area. And looking at the existing rates in the zoning bylaw, that tends to be the average used for different commercial uses. Some are less, some are more. And getting into loading spaces, based on the floor area, we would require 2, and we're requesting exemption to just provide 1 loading space. Moving on to the next slide, we get into the proposed uses. So the uses are listed, and some are shown in red, some are shown in black. So the black ones are the uses that are typically permitted in the C1 zone. And the uses shown in red we're proposing as additional uses that would be permitted on this site. And going through the different commercial uses, we evaluated each one, and we're looking at ones that we thought served a smaller scale local convenience function and are also compatible with the surrounding residential area that is going to be surrounding the site. So some of those include different types of clinics, such as medical, which could include a dentist's office, an optometry office, a veterinary clinic. Have uses such as a dry cleaning establishment, eating establishments. One of the ones we added was a fitness or health club. And the last one, there's a bit of a nuance with the shopping center. So that sounds like it might be something larger than what is proposed. In the township zoning bylaw, shopping center is defined as essentially any format of commercial where it's under 1 ownership and there's 2 or more individual units. So even if we had a plaza just with 2 units proposed and they were kept under 1 ownership, it would qualify as a shopping center. So we've added that in there to allow for the ownership structure, which is intended here, which is that it would be kept in 1 ownership and the individual units would be rented or leased out to different businesses. On the next slide, again, the intent of all these provisions was to limit the scale of commercial use to ensure compatibility with adjacent residential uses and local convenience commercial functions. So some of the uses that we purposely did not include would be something like a gas station. We thought that would attract a lot more traffic and is not as compatible with the surrounding residential uses. Moving to the next slide, again, just to reiterate on the proposed red line, here the street names that have been approved are included, but again, Colgan Crescent would be realigned, so it wouldn't just run what I'll call north and south. It would be diverted over to Symington and connect down to Milner Avenue from there. The next slide just shows kind of a general walkability from the location, so we think it's a strategic location at what will be the future second entrance into Dundalk from Highway 10. It serves a large majority of future residents. The 2 radiuses you see, the smaller one identifies approximately a 5-minute walking distance, which is generally considered to be 500. And the larger one would be a 10-minute walking distance or 800 meters. So you can see a lot of residents would be within a convenient walking distance of the plaza. Moving along, the supporting material that was submitted with these applications. So I prepared a planning justification report, and Crozier's office prepared both a traffic justification letter as well as a servicing and stormwater management analysis to confirm the proposed development works from an engineering perspective. On the next page, in summary, the proposed official plan amendment and zoning amendment is to permit the development of a commercial block. We believe it's in public interest and represents good planning for the following reasons. It's consistent with the provincial policy statement. Proposal conforms to the County of Grey official plan, conforms to the Township of Southgate official plan, and is in keeping with the intent of the Township zoning bylaw. So with that, thank you for your attention, and after Clinton goes through the comments we've received to date, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Corey. Clint, would you now please review the correspondence received from commenting agencies?
Thank you, Chair Milne. Just one other comment. It's in the notice, but it was not necessarily read out. There's also a red line revision application submitted to the County of Grey as part of this application to amend the draft plan because we're changing the townhouse development to this commercial development, which requires an amendment to the draft plan, which is a county jurisdiction. So that is another application process that is taking place. And I believe Randy Schertzer is on the line with respect to that, as well as these comments as well. So I just wanted to let everyone know that before I proceed here. The building department has no concerns with the application and just indicates applicable permits will be required. The County of Grey comments, to summarize them, county staff are still in the process of reviewing all the studies submitted with the applications, and requested comments be submitted for review agencies by May 1st, 2020, regarding the proposed revisions to the draft plan of subdivision. Comments may be provided following staff and agency review. County Transportation Services have reviewed the proposed applications as well as the proposed amendments to the existing draft approved plan and have no concerns. And provided that positive comments are received from review agencies and following a further in-depth review of the studies submitted with the applications, county planning staff have no concerns with the subject applications at this time. Enbridge Gas does not object to the proposed application. The Historic Saugeen Métis have no concern or objection. The Grand River Conservation Authority has no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. And who else do we have here? Hydro One. What does it say here? We have reviewed the documents concerning the noted plan and have no comments or concerns at this time. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs, wait, I'm trying to read sorry, pardon me. I don't know who that's from. Public Works Department indicates the stormwater management plan in place should be in place before the development. They indicate that it requires a commercial entrance permit for the commercial parcel. At the present time, it's a load restricted road, and it's in the Wellhead Protection Area C. One note about that, with the list of permitted uses, the dry cleaning establishment might have to be removed based on the Wellhead Protection Area designation. I will confirm with our risk management official with respect to that, but I believe they're prohibited in any of the wellhead protection areas, so I will just double check that. The Ministry of Transportation indicates MTO has a 14-meter setback from the highway property limit, and it would apply to this site. Access to the commercial site is to come from streets J and G, and MTO permits and review will be required prior to any work starting. It's within their permitting area. Public Health have no objection to the applications, and Public Works, that Public Works is in there twice. And that I believe is all of the comments we've received to date.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Is there any written comments from members of the public?
None received.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion from councillors at this time?
Yeah, through the chair. Just a comment. It's Martin here.
Go ahead.
I was impressed with the on the report here, but what I find is I'm okay with the change having one larger rental unit in the plaza, because even though it's a small plaza, most successful ones usually have what we know is a flagship store. So I can see the sense in that, and I totally agree with it. The other thing is, when I looked at the walkability slide, I said, what a good place to put it. And it's not only good planning, but it's thoughtful planning, because if it was anywhere else in there, the walking distance would affect Main Street, and we're trying to develop Main Street to get shops there too. So it doesn't, as far as walking go, affect that part. So I was impressed with that. So no questions, just a couple of good comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Any other councillors wish to comment or question? Hearing none, I guess we've already heard from the planning agent, unless you'd like to add something more, Chris, or Corey, rather.
Yeah, just quickly, one of the comments Clinton read, I'll actually two brief comments. So the first one, Clinton pointed out with the wellhead protection area and the potential conflict with the dry cleaning use. So we'll continue to work with Clinton and the risk management official to work through that. Secondly, the comment MTO submitted. So if everyone goes down to the last page of the agenda package, we have the same concept plan I went over earlier in my presentation. So the comment they submitted is in regards to what I'll call the southern entrance location into the plaza. So right now it's proposed off of Street H. MTO's comment is suggesting that we should move that entrance to Street J, so be on the west end of the plaza. Since we've received that, we've had, both myself and Crozier's office have had discussions with the MTO, pushing back on that a little bit. So we recently sent them over a package of information providing further justification why we believe it's appropriate where it's shown here. So we're in ongoing discussions with them. So we're optimistic that we'll be able to resolve that and address that comment appropriately.
Very good, thank you. And past experience would suggest that MTO is very obliging for suggestions from folks, I know. If you didn't sense the sarcasm there, that was definitely meant to be. Anyway, any other comments, Corey?
That's it for me, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from councillors? All right, I'll ask if there's anyone present who would like to make a submission in support of this application. Please state your name and address. Hearing none, I'll ask if there was anyone present who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application. Please state your name and address. Hearing none, are there any further questions or discussion from members of council? I just have one myself. I'll direct it to Clint. I just wonder, did we circulate the Six Nations of the Grand River? Because, of course, this is in their traditional territory, and more specifically in the Haldeman Tract. And if we did not, why not?
I believe we did. I would have to double check with Alicia in respect to that. I'm pretty sure we did, but because we use the same circulation list, I believe, from the previous applications in that area. So I'm pretty sure, but I would have to double check with Alicia with respect to that.
Okay, I didn't hear any comments from them. I noted the Saugeen Métis were consulted. So anyway, if you could confirm that for me, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So I'll ask one further time. Any more questions or comments from councillors?
This is just a comment.
Sure, go ahead, John.
It's always a pleasure to see these reports. And your team just always has a good, thorough report with the application, with most of the questions answered before they're asked, and it's just greatly appreciated. And it's funny, a few years ago, Shakir said to me that he doesn't build houses, he builds communities, and over the years between this and some of the other things, he's really proved it. So I just appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and just wanted to say thank you.
I very much appreciate those comments.
Good comments, John. Thank you very much.
Brian?
Okay, so this brings us. Yes, go ahead, Lindsay.
I just got confirmation from Alicia. It was circulated to the Six Nations, so that was done for sure.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, I will declare this public meeting adjourned at, what is it, 10:01, Lindsay?
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Keep safe.
Thank you.
Thanks.